Steelers Nation, we are less than 1 week away from the NFL draft, and we still have an answer at quarterback. So I got none other than Lauren WKR with us today to discuss what the Steelers should do at quarterback, the elephant in the room that is Aaron Rodgers, and a bunch of other things to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's get into it. With that being said, that's going to allow me to segue into our next segment and regarding what the approach to the draft is going to be. So we've talked glowingly about the fact that we both feel collectively that the Steelers should draft a quarterback. We need a long-term succession plan. And as we talked about in pre-show, I was very, I guess you can say, inspired by your comments in regards to what the Steelers need to do in your last time you were on the show, and saying that the Steelers need to get serious about the quarterback position and be a long-term solution. These one-offs, these quote-unquote, patchwork band-aids that they've been trying to use since Ben Roethlisberger retired is not working, obviously.
Right.
So I do believe that they need to do that. But holistically, what is your take on it? First of all, let me ask you this question. I'm a two-part it here. If they do go with the 21st pick in the draft and take a quarterback, who do you have your eye on? Who you think fits the Steeler mantra and mold and will be good for them long term?
It's funny because obviously the big names that you hear are the Shadors, are the Darts. I think the kid out of Alabama. I see his face, but right. I from what I'm hearing, I'm assuming that that's potentially the direction that they might go. I just don't want it to be in the first. Okay. I don't want it to be the first. If more than likely, he will probably fall to the second round, possibly third. I'll be surprised if he falls to the third. But I don't think he's chosen in the first. If that's the direction that they want to go.
This is the NFL, though. We don't know, but I do.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's so
draft stock states that he should fall to at least that far. Yes.
Like, we know what our needs are, right? Like, if we're talking draft, our needs for sure are defensive line and running back. I think those are the two positions that we truly need to focus on. Obviously, with quarterback, yes, I was very adamant the last time that we talked about this, and that the Steelers need to be serious about it. But just based on how everything has turned out, via free agency going into the draft, I really don't even know how serious they are. And I am one of those people where, I'm okay if they don't draft a quarterback and we roll with Mason for the 2025 season and we wait till next year when the draft is in Pittsburgh. I'm okay with that. I am totally okay with that. Even if you draft somebody just to hold you over until next year, until you get I don't know. Even that sounds crazy, because then it's going to turn into, well, why'd you draft the quarterback in 2025? You didn't even give him a chance and blah, blah, blah. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. I just know that if we draft a quarterback, I just don't want it to be a reach. I'm not a fan of drafting Shador, and I've said this before. I've even said this in my chat, and I hope that I'm wrong, but Shador just rubs Johnny Manziel all over me.
I'm not giving him that. I'm not giving him that at all. I can't disagree with you more. I think that he has something going for him that John Manziel never did have, and that's NFL Hall of Fame pedigree. He comes from that bloodline.
Yeah.
And I think that what people were, I guess you can say, offended by. I'm going to use the word offended by Deion's confidence. I think they're exactly the same way about Shador. I think they're offended by his confidence, and he comes directly from Deion. He is Deion's son. Like, if you had to clone Deion's, personality, it would be in a young Shador Sanders. So I think that's what kind of rubs people the wrong way. But, what he has to do and what he ultimately has to accomplish is, performing on the field. And if he lands in the right spot, I think he will. I think he's highly accurate. He's maybe not be the dual threat that Jalen Milroe is, but he has one thing that Jalen Milroe does not have at this moment, and that's
accuracy
and success from the pocket.
Yeah.
And being a true game managing quarterback. So I think that if you had Shador Sanders versus Jalen Milroe, you could roll Shador out day one and be okay. With that defense you have, with the coaching staff that you have, I think that y'all will win games and y'all will be in the playoffs with Shador. I think Jalen Milroe is more of a project. So,
Yeah, and I think a lot of people kind of look at Jalen and say that I think they look at him from like a Lamar Jackson standpoint. Like obviously when Lamar first came into the league, he wasn't really like super quarterback ready. He was mobile,
true.
he was an athlete, like he,
Yes.
you know, he could run, right? But it took time for him to develop into the quarterback that he is. And I don't know if you remember, but like the first few years when he was the starter in Baltimore, there was talks of potentially trading him. Right? Like things there was a point where like things kind of were not going very well with him in Baltimore. And then
Yeah, I think
obviously,
more media saying that than there's Ravens. But yes, I do believe that you are right. He did struggle.
Yeah.
You know, he came in the very end of his first rookie season, at the very end of that. You know, that was rocky.
Right.
I believe he lost to the Chargers in the playoffs over sack fumble. So, you know, it was a little rocky. And then the second year he was, you know, it was more growing pains. But I think that by the third year he won his first MVP and things of that nature. So it turned around.
Right. It took some time. Yeah. And it did. It definitely turned around.
Yeah.
It definitely turned around.
And again, you know, much like the Steelers have, the Ravens have that DNA of being really tough, hard nosed, you know, good run game. And you could, you know, get yourself out of trouble a lot of times with those things going for you. So you can allow your quarterback to develop. So if Jalen can feel that same mold, I think that you might be in good hands with him. But if Shador Sanders falls to you, I'm sorry. I think I would turn the card in.
But that's the thing. I don't know if he will. I don't know if he will. I think he's going to go off the board to either the Browns or the Giants.
That's a great point, because I said that yesterday in my video that I believe that the Browns or the Giants will be foolish to pass on it.
Yeah.
So if they are listening to me, then he won't be there. But you know, if he is there, then yes, hand the card in for me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny too because this was around the time that Myles Garrett. Oh gosh, I can't even believe I'm talking about this man. But you know, first it's I want out of Cleveland, I want to go to a winning team. Oh well, here's some more money, and he goes, okay,
all right,
you know, and then signs a deal. But I guess obviously there was more to it than money, right? I'm sure that they've probably shared with him what their plans are for the draft, and he didn't exactly divulge into what the Browns are going to do, you know, during the draft or for the draft, but whatever plan they have, he's excited about. So
true.
Naturally, everyone is alluding to or assuming that, you know, the Browns are going to draft a quarterback. So, and maybe that was part of the reasoning as to why he chose to stay.
Not a lot of people talking about this. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
because most people doing mocks right now have Travis Hunter going there, which is baffling to me when you have Denzel Ward, Emerson, and who's the third corner? That name is skipping me right now. I just talked about him yesterday. But they have three good corners already.
Yeah.
So why would you draft another one when you have needs otherwhere, an edge rusher, quarterback, for instance? Why would you do that?
So when I'm on my way to work in the mornings, I listen to Unsportsmanlike. It's the show with Chris Canty. I can't remember who the female's name is. They call her Smalls. But you know, obviously they talk sports in the morning. Like I think they're on from like 6 a.m. till like 10 a.m. or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going through Chris Canty's like draft scenarios for a few of the teams or like the top 10 teams or whatever. And he said, I'm talking Browns, he said that he thinks that the Browns are going to draft Shador and then trade to get back into the first round so that they can get Hunter.
No, they gonna pull the Texans. They gonna pull the Texans. How they did with Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. So I don't know. I could see the Browns doing something like that because it's just so Browns, but
cost a lot to do that though.
It is.
And they already mortgaged their future a couple of times already. It hadn't worked out. So I would think they'd be kind of scared to kind of go all in, chips all in on the table again. But hey, stranger things happen. Sometimes you got to take big swings. You keep swinging. At some point, you're going to hit something, right?
Yeah.
So who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. Who knows? That's the thing. Who knows? Like, you know, as far as the draft goes, like I'm calm, cool, and collected, but it's chaos night one. It is always chaos. And like, I think one of my biggest fears that I try not to think about too much or marinate on too much is, you know, I'm praying that like, if we were to make any type of trade that we don't package anybody. Like my worst nightmare is that like TJ Watt gets packaged in a trade. Or you know, people
Instagram post with him with the peace sign up.
Well, yeah, and everyone has speculation on that too, and so
I can't imagine TJ Watt being any jersey besides the Steelers jersey, but that's just me.
I can't
That's
either, but to be fair though, the Steelers of the old, he would have been gone. He probably would have been gone, some time ago. But it could happen. It could happen. Some Steeler fans are like, hey, package a deal with. Some people are speculating that George Pickens is going to be in that, and I'm thinking to myself, well, why would we trade away George Pickens when he was our only good receiver?
That's true.
And we just brought in some receiver help, so why would we go back to being deficient at the receiver position? But yeah, it's going to be the wild west next Thursday, and I'm excited for it. I'm a little bit nervous for it, but like I said, I'm keeping my cool. One thing that I failed to mention, and I don't even know how we let this slide, but it seems that you have some of our old goods by the name of Najee Harris. I mean, I don't mean to flip the script here, but
yes.
I can just say that, and I've always said this, I have always been Najee Harris' biggest critic. Like the kid can literally run for 120 yards a game, get 1,000 yards a season, and it still just wouldn't be enough for me. And the reason being is because we just never got consistency. It would be like he would have like one game where he would just do great, and then we'd just be in this like lull, like standstill for the longest. And I just heard so many different reasons, like, oh, your offensive line is young and he just doesn't have time to get through the holes. But we would see Jaylen Warren get through those same holes. And so and of course, when he got to the Chargers, it's just like, wow, you guys have a really nice facility. This was his like opening press conference once he got.
Yeah, it was a little bit speak dissing going on there, a little bit.
Just like, you know what? You better hope. I will say this though, I do feel somewhat vindicated because you guys did not sign him to a long-term deal. You only signed him to a 1-year deal.
And I'm glad
so this is just as much of a trial for the Chargers. As it is for anyone,
Now you get them 90-day trials in the mail. That's how it feels. We're gonna
exactly
see if you work
good.
It's
nice that they got y'all got a real nice facility apparently, and the top of the line, and
brand new, so it should
you just got Red Bulls waiting for you in your locker room, but you actually kind of got to play some football. So
true. And I've not been a big Najee Harris fan either, because I look at it like this. I'm a real big, a proponent of math, right? When you have an extra game in 17 games, because the big deal around things in 1,000 yards used to be 16 games. You got to average, I think it's 75 to 80 yards a games in order to be, a 1,000-yard rusher each year. Now it's down to 58.8 is the number you have to hit. So I'm sorry that 58.8 is average for me is not great in my book. It would be a run dominant team, and you telling me that a guy that averages 58.8 yards a carry or a season or a game, I should say, is going to change the world for us. I just don't believe that. I've always been I guess you can say a critic, much like you, of Najee's running style. He is durable. He is, he hasn't missed a game. I don't think maybe missed one game in 4 years or something crazy like that. That's very hard to do for a running back. But he is 240 pounds. He's not the most fleet of foot and had the most elite speed. So I'm hoping that the Chargers not only, trial and error with him, but draft one to be the succession plan and just bring him along slow and let it be a kind of a tandem backfield, because I don't want to put all my chips on Najee Harris either. So I'm with you there.
Honestly, I will be interested to see how you guys ultimately utilize him, because I think the approach that the Steelers had when we drafted him is that we were looking for that rock, and we thought that Najee was that rock. Like we were looking for him to have Jerome Bettis type tendencies, get in there, man. Like just ground and pound, smash, take helmets, whatever you got to do. But, like you said, he's 240 pounds, but he runs thinking that he's 220.
That's my issue. So we'll see. But I'm hoping that we get one of the Ohio State kids, somebody like that, to kind of be that. Even if we sign Nick Chubb behind him, I'll be okay with that, because I'm watching Nick Chubb bench 550 pounds, squat 550 pounds. I'm thinking he's really ready to come back from that knee injury right now. So I would love to see him there as well. But I'm looking to draft a kid because his running back class is heavy, and I'm really hoping that we land one in the draft personally. But I do have a question for you before we move on from draft talk. Well, twofold. I have to ask you this question, and this may make you throw up a little bit, but
oh no,
How do you feel about the rumors about potentially trading for Kirk Cousins if this whole draft board doesn't fall the way you want it?
I don't love it. In fact, I hate it. I just if we are entertaining Kirk Cousins, I just don't want us to get finessed contractually like he finessed the Vikings and like he finessed Atlanta.
He finessed every
Yes.
the
Um,
Commanders, the Vikings, the Falcons, everything.
right. The problem that I have with Kirk Cousins is you just don't know which Kirk Cousins you're going to get in a given game.
That's a good point.
Like some games he'll go off, right? Some games he'll be phenomenal. And then other games it's like he's, you just don't know what you're going to get, And I just think that ship has sailed, like okay, you showed your worth. You let Minnesota know that you're, hey, you're worth more than what Washington at the time was trying to finagle you into being.
Right.
They did make it to the playoffs. Does he have a playoff win? I feel like maybe he has. No.
He does not. No.
Okay. Well, they've made it to the playoffs. Never had a playoff win. Went to Atlanta, finessed the crap out of Atlanta. Ended up getting sat in the middle of the season, towards the end of the season, I should say.
Right. Which is 4 games too late, but that's a whole other conversation.
Right. Exactly. I just don't love it. To me, when I hear names like Aaron Rodgers and I hear names like Kirk Cousins coming in, even they were talking, it just seems like we're scrambling. It's like that GIF. I forget what movie it's from, but it's like the guy where he's like pouring in sweat and he's going like this, like trying to maintain the ship or whatever, but it's literally sinking.
Airplane, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. That's what I feel like the Steelers front office is right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So I just, again, and it just goes back to your point. Like if we are to entertain Kirk Cousins now, as I guess if the whole Rodgers thing doesn't work out, like again, why are we going back to the cycle of recycle? Recycle. I guess what really kind of irks me about Omar Khan is the fact that we see what his vision is and we see what plan A is. And when plan A doesn't work, we don't have a real alternative. It's like they just go all in on that plan. And when that plan falls through, it's just a scramble to try to figure out what they're going to do. Or we just don't do anything at all. Right? Like we saw this with Brandon Ayuk and how Brandon Ayuk finessed all these teams and shopped himself around. And,
that's another name floating around that could be for trade bait on draft night. So I don't think it's viable for you guys now because you got DK, but yeah, that's another name that you brought up. But
also another name that I'd like to bring up, and I just feel like the Steelers, we're just like we're like the bait testers, right? And what I mean, we were the bait testers with Brandon Ayuk. I think our most recent bait tester after that was Matthew Stafford. Rams said, hey, go see what you're worth. And I think that's who they really wanted. I think they really wanted to bring Matthew Stafford.
I wouldn't have minded that for you guys because I think he would have been great.
I wouldn't have minded it either, honestly. If it weren't for maybe a play or two going their way against the Eagles, we probably could have seen the Rams in the NFC Championship game and not the Eagles. Because I really feel like in that game, the Eagles got all they could handle from the Rams. They had to fight for that.
Either. I think they were expecting them to lay down in the snow.
Yes, exactly.
Team, but yeah, they didn't. And they're a fade pattern away from being in an NFC title game. You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So, and then the Rams came back and said, oh, wait, nope. Come on back. Come on back.
Bring it in.
Now that we know what the Steelers are going to offer you, come on back. We realize how good you are and what you're worth. Let's get a deal done. So I'm tired of us being like just the petri dish, right? At some point we've got to get back to really not so much controlling things, but having it under control. You know what I'm saying? Like just it just doesn't seem like that's, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like that's what the Steelers are right now. And I think that's another reason why Steeler fans are so squirmy and so agitated and just so frustrated, because we're doing things that really haven't been the Steeler way and that are just very, very unorthodox in terms of, off season and we can go back and cry over spilled milk and continue to say till the cows come home, we should have had a better plan after Ben. We should have had a better plan after Ben. But we are where we are, right? This is our reality. It was a mistake to draft Kenny Pickett, and and the Steelers are kind of infamous for this too, right? Like we go through these phases of like trying out different quarterbacks until we get our guy, right? Like that's what it was leading up to Ben. That's what it was with Bradshaw, and so maybe that's what this maybe that's what this is. We're just going through these different, you know, lag periods until we get our guy. And let's be clear too, like we really lucked out with Ben. I think we were for sure spoiled. We were for sure spoiled because I don't think anyone truly believed that a kid out of Miami, Ohio, of all places, right, was
Be a
gonna
franchise quarterback, right?
be a diamond in the rough. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
So
Okay. All
yeah,
right, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, as far as the Kirk thing, I want us to steer clear from that. I don't want us to continue to recycle and staying down this path of, well, let's try this here, or let's try this here. No, let's get, if we're not gonna be serious about a quarterback, roll with Mason Rudolph next season. Wait till the 2026 draft to get a guy that you really want. Draft is gonna be in Pittsburgh. What better scenario, what better scene than to, and if it means we don't have a winning season, I'm okay with that. I'm personally okay with that.
Yeah, means to it.
I'm over not going into, before each season saying we had a great draft, looking forward to the season, saying I don't have any expectations. We win, 3, 4, 5 games. Oh, we might have something. And then we get to the halfway point and the steam just wears off.
The bottom falls out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Stay tuned for part 4 of our Steelers series, where we discuss dream draft scenarios on draft day, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Lockdown Divas Sports Network. And remember to subscribe to never miss an upload.